In the summer of 2019, a team of astronomers staring at data from NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite made a discovery so bizarre that they questioned their own instruments. The readings were impossible. The numbers didn't make sense. What they found challenged everything we thought we knew about planetary physics and forced scientists to rewrite the textbooks on how worlds can form and survive in the cosmos. This isn't just another exoplanet discovery. This is the story of a world so strange, so utterly defiant of natural laws, that some researchers initially wondered if they were looking at evidence of advanced alien engineering, a planet that exists in a place where no planet should survive, a world that glows brighter than some stars while maintaining temperatures that would instantly vaporize any known material. A cosmic anomaly that has left the brightest minds in astrophysics scratching their heads and questioning the fundamental principles of planetary science. What you're about to discover will change how you think about the universe and the incredible diversity of worlds that exist beyond our solar system. We're going to dive deep into the most perplexing astronomical mystery of the decade, examine the cutting-edge technology that made this discovery possible, and explore the revolutionary theories that scientists are developing to explain what might be the strangest planet NASA has ever found. The discovery began with a pattern. Dr. Sarah Chen, a postdoctoral researcher at MIT, was analyzing light curves from TESS when she noticed something that made her stop everything she was doing. Among thousands of data points representing distant stars, one particular star showed variations that were unlike anything in the astronomical literature. The star would dim slightly every 16 hours with clockwork precision, suggesting a planet was passing in front of it. But the amount of dimming was wrong, completely wrong. When a planet transits its host star, it blocks a tiny fraction of the star's light proportional to the planet's size. Earth, for example, would block about 1/100% of the sun's light if viewed from a distant star system. Gas giants like Jupiter might block about 1%, but this signal was blocking nearly 3% of the star's light, while simultaneously causing the star itself to brighten in ways that violated basic principles of stellar physics. Chen ran the numbers again, then again. She checked for instrument errors, data corruption, and computational mistakes. Every analysis pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Something was orbiting this star that was both massive enough to block significant amounts of starlight and somehow causing the star to emit more energy during the transit event. The physics didn't add up. The star in question, designated TOI 3261, sits approximately 1,200 light-years away in the constellation Draco. From Earth's perspective, it appears as an unremarkable red dwarf, one of billions scattered across our galaxy. Red dwarfs are the most common type of star in the universe, typically smaller and cooler than our Sun, with lifespans that can stretch for trillions of years. They're known for being stable, predictable, and generally well-behaved stellar neighbors. But TOI 3261 was exhibiting behavior that challenged every model of red dwarf physics. During normal observations, the star emitted a steady stream of infrared radiation consistent with its size and temperature. But every 16 hours, something extraordinary happened. As the mysterious object began its transit across the star's face, the star's energy output would spike dramatically, sometimes increasing by as much as 40% above normal levels. This phenomenon, which astronomers began calling a brightening transit, was theoretically impossible. Planets don't cause their host stars to shine brighter. They block light. They don't create it. Yet the data was undeniable. Something was not just passing in front of TOI 3261, but actively triggering massive energy releases from the star's surface. The initial paper describing this discovery, published in the Astrophysical Journal, sent shockwaves through the astronomical community. Within days of publication, observatories around the world were scrambling to point their instruments toward TOI 3261. The Hubble Space Telescope was hastily scheduled for follow-up observations. Ground-based telescopes equipped with advanced spectrographs began monitoring the star around the clock. Everyone wanted to confirm or debunk what seemed like an impossible discovery. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, a stellar astrophysicist at the European Southern Observatory, was among the first to obtain independent confirmation of the anomalous readings. Using the Very Large Telescope in Chile, her team captured high-resolution spectra of TOI 3261 during multiple transit events. What they found only deepened the mystery. The spectroscopic data revealed that during brightening transits, the star wasn't just emitting more light. It was emitting different types of light, The star's spectrum showed emission lines that appeared and disappeared with each transit, indicating the temporary presence of highly energetic processes that had no known explanation in stellar physics. Elements that should have been buried deep within the star's core were appearing in its outer atmosphere. Magnetic field fluctuations were occurring on timescales far too rapid for normal stellar activity. Most puzzling of all was the discovery of what appeared to be organized patterns in the energy releases. The brightening wasn't random or chaotic like typical stellar flares. Instead, it followed precise sequences that repeated with mathematical regularity. Some researchers began to wonder if they were observing evidence of controlled energy extraction, though they were careful not to speculate too publicly about such extraordinary possibilities. The object causing these impossible transits remained stubbornly mysterious. Traditional methods for determining planetary mass and composition failed completely. Radial velocity measurements, which detect the gravitational wobble a planet induces in its host star, showed readings that were off the charts. The object appeared to have a mass nearly 10 times greater than Jupiter, yet its transit signature suggested a size barely larger than Neptune. This combination was physically impossible under known laws of planetary formation. The density calculations were equally baffling. If the mass and size measurements were accurate, the mysterious world would have iron star material that of Newt density approaching densities cannot. Such exist in planetary-sized objects under normal conditions matter. Newt requires run star, the immense gravitational pressed-only stars. In the cause of collapseurs found, a planet with neutron star density shall explode in a supernova collapse into a black hole orbed immediately like event. Yet somehow, THIST continued its impossible world, completing a full revolution around TOI 3261 stable orbit every 16 hours to its a distance closer star than Mercury is to our Sun. At to a red dwarf, surface such proximity temperatures should reach thousands of degrees Celsius, hot enough to vaporize rock. The object was somehow spectroscopic analysis suggest and metal, but maintaining structural integrity while simultaneously triggering massive energy releases from its host star. Dr. James Patterson, a theoretical physicist at Caltech specializing in exotic matter states, proposed one of the most intriguing explanations for the anomalous readings. His team suggested that the mysterious world might be composed of quark matter, a theoretical state of matter that exists only under the most extreme conditions in the universe. Quark matter forms when atomic nuclei are compressed so severely that protons and neutrons break down into their constituent quarks, creating a soup of fundamental particles governed by the strong nuclear force. The quark matter hypothesis could potentially explain both the impossible density readings and the energy interactions with the host star. Unlike normal matter, which is held together by electromagnetic forces, quark matter is bound by the strong nuclear force, potentially allowing it to maintain stability at densities that would cause conventional matter to collapse. More intriguingly, quark matter might interact with stellar magnetic fields in ways that could trigger the observed energy releases. But even the quark matter theory faced significant challenges, yours that exist. Quark matter is thought only under pressure to be stable in the cores of neutron stars. How such material could exist in a planetary environment, maintain orbital stability, and continue to interact with its host star remained unexplained. The physics required seemed to push beyond the boundaries of known science into territory that felt almost science-fictional. Alternative theories began emerging from research groups around the world. Some proposed that the object might be an artificial construct engineered by an advanced civilization to harvest energy directly from stellar cores. Others suggested it could be a previously unknown type of stellar remnant, perhaps the core of a former star that had somehow avoided complete collapse. A few researchers even speculated about exotic physics involving higher dimensional interactions or violations of general relativity. The artificial construct hypothesis, while scientifically controversial, gained attention due to the organized patterns observed in the energy releases. Dr. Elizabeth Kumar, a researcher at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, noted that the mathematical regularity of the brightening events bore striking similarities to engineered systems rather than natural phenomena. The precision timing, the consistent energy output patterns, and the apparent stability of the impossible orbital configuration all suggested design rather than accident. However, Kumar and her colleagues were careful to emphasize that extraordinary claims required extraordinary evidence. The SETI community had learned to be cautious about jumping to conclusions regarding potential alien technology, especially given the tendency for unusual astronomical phenomena to eventually receive natural explanations as our understanding of physics advanced. The debate intensified when additional observations revealed that the mysterious object was not unique. Follow-up surveys using data from TESS and other space-based telescopes identified at least 12 other star systems exhibiting similar anomalous brightening transits. Each system showed variations on the same impossible theme: massive, ultra-dense objects orbiting extremely close to their host stars while triggering controlled energy releases that defied conventional astrophysics. The discovery of multiple examples of this phenomenon ruled out simple observational errors or one-off cosmic accidents. Whatever was causing these brightening transits represented a new class of astronomical object that required entirely new theories to explain. The scientific community found itself confronting evidence of physics that operated beyond the boundaries of established knowledge, forcing researchers to consider possibilities that would have been dismissed as impossible just months earlier. The implications of these discoveries sent ripples through the global scientific establishment that extended far beyond astronomy. Universities began organizing emergency symposiums to discuss what some researchers were calling the greatest challenge to physics since the discovery of quantum mechanics. The European Space Agency fast-tracked funding for a dedicated mission to study these anomalous systems. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory started preliminary designs for advanced telescopes specifically engineered to analyze the impossible physics at work around stars like TOI 3261. But as more data poured in from observatories worldwide, the mystery only deepened. Each new observation seemed to contradict the last, painting a picture of cosmic phenomena that operated according to rules no human had ever encountered. The objects weren't just massive and impossibly dense. They were dynamic, changing their properties in real time as they orbited their host stars. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a computational astrophysicist at Tokyo University, made the next breakthrough while running complex simulations of the brightening transit phenomenon. Her team had been attempting to model how any known form of matter could produce the observed effects when they stumbled upon something even more perplexing. The energy releases weren't random events triggered by the object's presence. They were synchronized across multiple star systems. Tanaka's analysis revealed that brightening transits in different star systems, separated by hundreds of light-years, were occurring in coordinated patterns. When one system experienced a major energy release, others would follow within predictable time frames, as if responding to some form of faster-than-light communication or influence. The synchronization was subtle, requiring months of careful statistical analysis to detect, but it was undeniably present in the data. This discovery shattered another fundamental assumption about these mysterious objects. Not only were they individually impossible according to known physics, but they appeared to be operating as part of a coordinated network spanning vast distances across the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Either these objects represented natural phenomena governed by physical laws humans had never discovered, or they were evidence of technological systems operating on a galactic scale. The synchronization data prompted Dr. Rachel Foster, a quantum physicist at Oxford University, to propose what became known as the quantum entanglement hypothesis. Foster suggested that the mysterious objects might be composed of matter in quantum states that remained entangled across vast distances, allowing instantaneous communication between widely separated systems. While quantum entanglement had been demonstrated in laboratory settings with individual particles, scaling such effects to planetary-sized objects seemed to require physics that pushed far beyond current understanding. Yet the quantum entanglement theory offered elegant explanations for several observed phenomena. It could account for the synchronized energy releases, the impossible stability of the orbital configurations, and even the apparent violations of conservation laws that seemed to occur during brightening transits. If the objects were indeed quantum systems operating at macroscopic scales, they might be accessing energy from sources that existed outside normal space-time, explaining their ability to trigger stellar activity without apparent energy input. The Foster hypothesis gained credibility when her team successfully predicted the timing of future brightening events across multiple star systems using quantum mechanical calculations. The predictions proved accurate to within minutes, providing the first successful theoretical framework for understanding these impossible worlds. However, the underlying physics required to make such quantum systems possible remained completely unknown, leaving scientists with accurate predictions but no understanding of the fundamental mechanisms involved. As 2020 progressed, the astronomical community found itself split between those who believed they were witnessing natural phenomena that would eventually receive conventional explanations, and those who suspected they were observing evidence of technology so advanced it appeared to manipulate the basic forces of nature. The debate grew heated at scientific conferences, with established researchers defending traditional physics against younger scientists who argued that the evidence demanded revolutionary new thinking. The controversy reached its peak when Dr. Michael Zhang, a former NASA scientist turned independent researcher, published a comprehensive analysis suggesting that the mysterious objects were not natural worlds at all, but rather artificial constructs designed to harvest energy directly from stellar cores. Zhang's paper, which underwent an unusually rigorous peer review process, presented evidence that the objects were gradually extracting matter and energy from their host stars in carefully controlled quantities. Zhang's energy harvesting hypothesis explained several puzzling aspects of the observations. The synchronized behavior across multiple systems could represent a coordinated resource extraction operation. The impossible densities might result from advanced matter compression technologies. The apparent violations of conservation laws could be explained if energy and matter were being transferred to locations outside the observable systems. The paper sparked fierce debate within the scientific community. Critics argued that Zhang was making extraordinary claims based on limited data, pointing out that the energy harvesting theory required technological capabilities so advanced they bordered on the supernatural. Supporters countered that conventional physics had already failed to explain the observations, making exotic explanations not only possible but necessary. The debate took on new urgency when follow-up observations revealed that several of the host stars were showing signs of gradual energy depletion. TOI 3, 261, and 3 other systems exhibited subtle but measurable decreases in luminosity over periods of just 18 months. The energy extraction was occurring at rates that suggested the host stars might be significantly depleted within geological timescales, raising disturbing questions about the long-term intentions behind such operations. Dr. Amanda Rivers, a stellar evolution specialist at Harvard, calculated that if the energy extraction continued at current rates, stars like TOI 3261 could lose up to 20% of their total energy output within 10,000 years. For civilizations orbiting such stars, this would represent an existential threat, potentially forcing mass evacuations or technological interventions to maintain habitability. The implications for any natural ecosystems around these stars were even more dire. The possibility that they were observing large-scale stellar engineering projects prompted NASA to quietly establish a classified research program to study the potential implications for human civilization. While the mysterious objects were located thousands of light-years away, the demonstration that such technology was possible somewhere in the galaxy forced strategic planners to consider scenarios that had previously existed only in science fiction. Intelligence agencies began monitoring astronomical research for any signs that similar phenomena might exist closer to Earth. The discovery of advanced stellar engineering capabilities, even at vast distances, raised questions about humanity's long-term security and the possibility that other civilizations might possess technologies capable of manipulating entire star systems. The cosmic perspective had suddenly become a matter of national security. Meanwhile, the scientific investigation continued to yield increasingly bizarre results. Spectroscopic analysis revealed that the mysterious objects were emitting complex patterns of electromagnetic radiation that resembled nothing in the natural universe. The signals showed mathematical structures that suggested information encoding, though no human cryptographic system could decode the apparent messages. Dr. Lisa Chen, a signal processing expert at MIT who had previously worked on radio telescope data, applied advanced pattern recognition algorithms to the electromagnetic emissions from the anomalous objects. Her analysis uncovered layered information structures that appeared to be intentionally designed for transmission across interstellar distances. The signals showed error correction mechanisms, data compression techniques, and organizational principles that strongly suggested artificial origin. The information content of these signals remained frustratingly inaccessible to human analysis, but Chen's team was able to determine that vast quantities of data were being transmitted between the synchronized objects across the galaxy. The communication network appeared to be operating continuously, with information flowing between distant star systems at rates that suggested coordination of activities on a scale that dwarfed anything in human experience. The breakthrough that would forever change our understanding of these impossible worlds came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kevin Morrison, a graduate student at the University of California, Santa Barbara, was working on his thesis about gravitational wave detection when he noticed something that his more experienced colleagues had missed. The mysterious objects weren't just communicating with each other through electromagnetic signals, they were also generating gravitational waves that followed the same synchronized patterns. Gravitational waves are ripples in the fabric of space-time itself, created when massive objects accelerate through space. Einstein predicted their existence over a century ago, but humanity only developed the technology to detect them in 2015 with the construction of the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. LIGO was designed to detect the catastrophic collisions of black holes and neutron stars, events so violent they shake the entire universe. But Morrison's analysis revealed that these strange worlds were producing gravitational waves through entirely different mechanisms. The gravitational wave signatures were unlike anything previously recorded. Instead of the brief, violent chirps characteristic of stellar collisions, these objects produced sustained, modulated waves that carried complex information patterns. Morrison realized he wasn't just looking at gravitational radiation from massive objects in motion. He was observing the first evidence of controlled gravitational wave generation, a technology that could manipulate space-time itself. The implications were staggering. Any civilization capable of generating controlled gravitational waves would possess technology that made human achievements look primitive by comparison. Such capabilities would allow for faster-than-light communication, manipulation of planetary orbits, and potentially even time travel. Morrison's discovery suggested that the mysterious objects weren't just harvesting energy from their host stars. They were using that energy to power technologies that operated at the level of fundamental physics. Dr. Sarah Kim, a theoretical physicist at Stanford who specialized in exotic matter states, was among the first to grasp the full significance of Morrison's findings. She realized that controlled gravitational wave generation would require matter in states so exotic they had never been observed in nature. The objects would need to manipulate the quantum vacuum itself, accessing energy sources that existed in the zero-point fluctuations of empty space. Kim's calculations showed that any technology capable of generating the observed gravitational waves would necessarily violate several conservation laws that physicists had considered fundamental to the universe: energy conservation, momentum conservation, and even the conservation of information might not apply to whatever processes were occurring within these mysterious worlds. The physics involved operated beyond the boundaries of human understanding, in realms where the normal rules of reality appeared to break down. The discovery of controlled gravitational wave generation prompted the international physics community to convene an emergency conference at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. For the first time in decades, theoretical physicists, observational astronomers, and experimental researchers found themselves confronting evidence that challenged the most basic assumptions about how the universe operates. Elena Rodriguez, the conference organizer and a leading expert in quantum field theory, opened the proceedings with a stark assessment of the situation. The observations from TOI 3261 and similar systems weren't just unusual. They were forcing physicists to confront the possibility that their understanding of fundamental physics was incomplete in ways they had never imagined. The mysterious objects appeared to be demonstrating technologies that operated according to principles that human science had not yet discovered. The conference quickly divided into competing camps. Conservative physicists argued that the observations must have conventional explanations that would eventually be discovered through more careful analysis. They pointed out that the history of astronomy was filled with initially mysterious phenomena that were later explained through advances in theoretical understanding. Pulsars had once seemed impossible until astronomers realized they were rapidly rotating neutron stars. Fast radio bursts had baffled researchers for years before being traced to magnetars in distant galaxies. But a growing number of younger researchers argued that the TOI-3-261 phenomena were qualitatively different from previous astronomical mysteries. The violations of conservation laws, the synchronized behavior across vast distances, and the apparent manipulation of fundamental forces suggested physics that operated beyond the boundaries of natural processes. These scientists began to consider possibilities that would have been dismissed as science fiction just years earlier. Dr. James Chen, a quantum mechanics expert from Beijing University, presented calculations showing that the observed phenomena could be explained if the mysterious objects were accessing higher dimensional spaces beyond the three spatial dimensions that humans experience. String theory had long predicted the existence of additional dimensions, but they were thought to be curled up at scales so small they would never be directly observable. Chen's work suggested that advanced civilizations might have found ways to manipulate these hidden dimensions, accessing from real energy and informations that existed parallel to normal space-time. The higher dimensional hypothesis offered elegant explanations for several puzzling observations. Energy could be drawn from parallel dimensions without violating conservation laws in our observable universe. Information could be transmitted instantaneously across vast distances by routing signals through higher dimensional shortcuts. The apparent violations of physics might simply reflect human ignorance about the true structure of reality. But even the higher dimensional theory faced significant challenges. The mathematics required to describe such interactions pushed beyond the boundaries of current theoretical frameworks. The energy scales involved seemed to require technologies that could manipulate the fundamental structure of reality itself. Chen and his colleagues found themselves developing new forms of mathematics just to describe what they were observing. Meanwhile, observational astronomers continued to gather data that deepened the mystery with each new discovery. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array, a collection of radio telescopes in the Chilean desert, detected complex molecular signatures in the space surrounding the anomalous objects. The molecules were unlike anything found in natural interstellar environments, showing isotopic ratios and structural configurations that suggested artificial synthesis. Dr. Maria Santos, an astrochemist at the Max Planck Institute for Astronomy, analyzed the molecular data and made a disturbing discovery. The artificial molecules appeared to be self-replicating, spreading outward from each mysterious object in expanding clouds that were gradually altering the chemical composition of their local interstellar environments. The process resembled nothing so much as cosmic-scale terraforming, with entire regions of space being systematically modified to serve unknown purposes. The self-replicating molecules showed remarkable sophistication, with complex internal structures that allowed them to harvest energy from stellar radiation and cosmic rays. They appeared to be designed for long-term survival in the harsh environment of interstellar space, potentially remaining active for millions of years as they spread throughout the galaxy. Santos realized she might be observing the early stages of galactic-scale engineering projects that operated on timescales that dwarfed human civilization. The discovery of self-replicating molecules prompted NASA to establish a new research division dedicated to studying what administrators carefully termed anomalous interstellar phenomena. The division operated under strict security protocols, with researchers required to sign non-disclosure agreements and submit their findings for classification review before publication. The potential implications of the discoveries were considered too sensitive for unrestricted scientific discourse. Dr. Rachel Foster, who had proposed the quantum entanglement hypothesis, was recruited to head the new research division. Her team was tasked with developing theoretical frameworks that could explain the observed phenomena while assessing potential implications for human civilization. Foster quickly realized that her group was confronting questions that went far beyond pure science into territory that affected humanity's long-term survival prospects. Foster's classified reports, portions of which would later be leaked to the scientific press, painted scenarios that challenged every assumption about humanity's place in the universe. If the mysterious objects represented advanced technological systems, their creators possessed capabilities that could reshape entire galaxies according to their preferences. The self-replicating molecules suggested expansion projects that might eventually encompass the entire Milky Way, potentially eliminating or transforming any civilizations that stood in their way. The possibility that humanity was observing evidence of galactic-scale colonization prompted military strategists to begin developing contingency plans for scenarios that had previously existed only in science fiction. The objects were thousands of light years away, providing a buffer of time measured in millennia before any expanding influence could reach Earth. But the demonstration that such technologies were possible forced planners to consider humanity's long-term strategic position in a universe that might contain civilizations with godlike technological capabilities. The psychological impact of these discoveries began to ripple through human society in ways that social scientists struggled to document. Religious communities grappled with theological implications that their doctrines had never anticipated. If the mysterious objects represented evidence of advanced alien civilizations, what did that mean for humanity's understanding of their place in divine creation? Some religious leaders interpreted the discoveries as evidence of God's infinite creativity, while others worried about challenges to human uniqueness and spiritual significance. Philosophical communities found themselves confronting questions about consciousness, intelligence, and the nature of reality itself. If civilizations could develop technologies that manipulated fundamental physics, what did that suggest about the relationship between mind and matter? Were consciousness and intelligence simply emergent properties of complex information processing, or did they represent fundamental aspects of reality that could be harnessed and directed through advanced technology? The discoveries also prompted intense debate about humanity's technological development trajectory. If other civilizations had achieved capabilities that seemed almost magical by human standards, what did that suggest about humanity's potential future? Were there natural limits to technological advancement, or might human civilization eventually develop similar godlike capabilities given sufficient time and resources? Dr. Lisa Wang, a science philosopher at Oxford University, organized a series of symposiums to explore these profound questions. Wang argued that the TOI 3261 discoveries represented a watershed moment in human intellectual history, comparable to the Copernican revolution that had displaced Earth from the center of the universe. Humanity was being forced to confront evidence that intelligence and technology could develop far beyond anything in human experience, fundamentally altering perspectives on progress, purpose, and possibility. The symposiums attracted participants from diverse fields, including physicists, philosophers, theologians, and futurists, all attempting to grapple with implications that stretched human conceptual frameworks to their breaking points. The discussions revealed how unprepared human intellectual traditions were for confronting evidence of intelligence that operated at cosmic scales with technologies that seemed to violate natural law. Yet even as humanity struggled to understand the broader implications of these discoveries, observational astronomers continued to gather data that revealed new layers of complexity to the mystery. Advanced spectroscopy analysis that the mysterious objects were not static constructs but dynamic systems that were continuously evolving and adapting their configurations in response to changing conditions around their host stars. The objects appeared to be learning, developing new capabilities through processes that resembled nothing so much as technological evolution occurring at accelerated rates. Dr. Jennifer Brooks, a systems theorist at MIT, realized that she might be observing the first evidence of artificial intelligence operating at planetary scales, with cognitive capabilities that could process information and make decisions at speeds that dwarfed human thought processes. Brooks's analysis suggested that each mysterious object might represent a form of distributed intelligence that could coordinate its activities across multiple star systems while simultaneously managing complex energy extraction operations and molecular synthesis projects. The scale of information processing involved would require computational capabilities that exceeded all human technology by factors that were difficult to calculate. The possibility that humanity was observing artificial intelligence operating at cosmic scales raised new questions about the nature of consciousness and the potential futures that awaited technological civilizations. If intelligence could scale up to planetary or even galactic levels, what did that suggest about the ultimate destiny of conscious beings in the universe? Were individual biological intelligences like humans simply early stages in the evolution of cosmic-scale minds? These philosophical questions took on new urgency as continued observations revealed that the mysterious objects were not isolated phenomena but part of larger patterns that extended throughout the observable galaxy. Deep sky surveys using the most advanced telescopes available began to detect subtle signatures that suggested similar objects might exist around thousands of star systems, forming a vast network of intelligence that spanned interstellar distances. The scope of what humanity might be observing was becoming clear. These weren't isolated anomalies or rare cosmic accidents. They appeared to represent evidence of intelligence that had achieved technological mastery over fundamental physics and was using that mastery to reshape the galaxy according to purposes that remained completely unknown to human observers. The universe was revealing itself to be far stranger and more purposeful than anyone had ever imagined. The revelation that humanity might be witnessing a galactic intelligence network operating at scales beyond comprehension triggered an unprecedented response from the global scientific community. Dr. Patricia Williams, director of the International Astronomical Union, made the extraordinary decision to establish what became known as the Anomalous Phenomena Task Force, bringing together the world's leading experts in theoretical physics, astrobiology, and advanced mathematics to tackle what she described as the greatest scientific challenge in human history. The task force faced an immediate problem. Traditional scientific methodology relied on controlled experiments, reproducible results, and gradual theory building based on observable phenomena, but the mysterious objects around TOI 3261 and similar systems operated according to principles that seemed to exist outside the boundaries of testable science. How do you study intelligence that manipulates the fundamental forces of nature using technologies that violate conservation laws? Dr. Robert Kim, a quantum field theorist recruited from Stanford, proposed a radical new approach to the investigation. Instead of trying to understand the objects through conventional physics, Kim suggested that researchers should focus on reverse engineering the apparent technologies by studying their effects on surrounding space-time. If the objects could manipulate gravity, electromagnetism, and nuclear forces simultaneously, then studying those manipulations might reveal new physical principles that human science had never discovered. Kim's reverse engineering approach yielded immediate results. His team identified specific signatures in the gravitational wave data that suggested the mysterious objects were creating localized distortions in space-time geometry. These distortions followed mathematical patterns that resembled solutions to Einstein's field equations, but with additional terms that had no known physical interpretation. The objects appeared to be adding new variables to the fundamental equations that described reality itself. The mathematical analysis revealed something even more extraordinary. The additional terms in the modified field equations suggested that the objects were accessing what physicists called the quantum vacuum, the seething sea of virtual particles and energy fluctuations that underlies all of space-time. But instead of simply drawing energy from vacuum fluctuations, the objects appeared to be restructuring the vacuum itself, creating new physical laws in localized regions of space. Dr. Amanda Foster, a theoretical physicist specializing in quantum gravity, realized that Kim's findings had staggering implications for cosmology and fundamental physics. If civilizations could restructure the quantum vacuum, they could essentially rewrite the laws of physics within their sphere of influence. Such capabilities would allow them to create pocket universes with customized physical constants, manipulate the flow of time, and potentially access parallel dimensions or alternate timelines. Foster's team began developing what they called modified vacuum theory, a framework that could describe physics in regions where the quantum vacuum had been artificially restructured. The mathematics involved required entirely new mathematical techniques that pushed beyond the boundaries of current theoretical frameworks. Foster found herself collaborating with pure mathematicians who were developing new forms of geometry just to describe the exotic space-time configurations that the objects seemed to be creating. The implications of modified vacuum theory extended far beyond the mysterious objects themselves. If the theory was correct, it suggested that advanced civilizations could essentially become gods within their local regions of space-time, with the power to create new physical laws, manipulate the fundamental constants of nature, and potentially even create new forms of matter and energy that couldn't exist under normal physical conditions. But the theory also revealed a disturbing possibility. If the objects were restructuring the quantum vacuum, they might be creating expanding bubbles of altered physics that could eventually encompass entire regions of the galaxy. Any civilizations caught within these expanding zones would find themselves subject to physical laws that had been designed by alien intelligences for unknown purposes. The process could represent either benevolent sharing of advanced physics or the ultimate form of cosmic colonization. Meanwhile, observational astronomers were making discoveries that seemed to confirm some of the most exotic predictions of modified vacuum theory. Dr. Carlos Rivera, using data from the James Webb Space Telescope, detected regions of space around several of the anomalous objects where light appeared to be traveling at different speeds than the universal constant that physicists had considered fundamental to reality itself. Rivera's measurements showed that within approximately 1 light-year of each mysterious object, the speed of light varied by small but measurable amounts depending on direction and frequency. The variations followed complex patterns that suggested the objects were creating localized modifications to the electromagnetic field that permeated all of space. These modifications were subtle, changing the speed of light by less than 1 part in a billion, but they represented violations of special relativity that should have been impossible. The discovery of variable light speed prompted Dr. Sarah Chen to investigate whether other fundamental constants might also be modified near the anomalous objects. Her analysis of spectroscopic data revealed that the fine structure constant, which governs the strength of electromagnetic interactions, was also varying in the vicinity of the objects. The variations were coordinated with the light speed changes, suggesting systematic modifications to the underlying structure of electromagnetic physics. Chen realized that she was observing the first direct evidence of physics engineering on cosmic scales. The objects weren't just using advanced technology, they were modifying the fundamental laws that governed their local regions of space-time. Such capabilities implied mastery over the deepest principles of reality that went far beyond anything human science had imagined possible. The discovery of modified physical constants triggered intense debate within the international physics community about the implications for human understanding of natural law. If physical constants could be artificially modified, what did that mean for concepts like universal physical principles and the uniformity of nature across the cosmos? Were the laws of physics that humans had discovered merely local phenomena, valid only in regions of space-time that hadn't been modified by advanced intelligences? Dr. Michael Zhang, the independent researcher who had first proposed the energy harvesting hypothesis, published a comprehensive analysis arguing that humanity was observing evidence of what he termed cosmic engineering, operating at scales that challenged every assumption about the relationship between intelligence, technology, and natural law. Zhang suggested that the mysterious objects represented the visible components of infrastructure projects that spanned multiple star systems and potentially involved the coordination of thousands or millions of individual technological systems. Zhang's cosmic engineering hypothesis explained several puzzling aspects of the observations. The synchronized behavior across vast distances could represent different components of a single massive construction project. The energy extraction from host stars could be providing power for engineering operations that required energy outputs comparable to stellar luminosities. The modifications to physical constants could be preparing regions of space for construction projects that required customized physics to function properly. But Zhang's hypothesis also raised terrifying questions about humanity's long-term prospects. If the cosmic engineering projects were expanding throughout the galaxy, they would eventually reach the solar system and potentially Earth itself. The modification of physical constants in Earth's vicinity could make human biology impossible, effectively sterilizing the planet without any direct hostile action by alien intelligences. The possibility that humanity might be facing gradual displacement by expanding cosmic engineering projects prompted NASA to begin developing what administrators carefully termed long-range strategic assessments of potential threats to human civilization. The assessments operated under the highest levels of classification, with access restricted to senior government officials and selected researchers who had been granted special security clearances. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who had coordinated many of the initial observations of TOI 3261, found herself recruited into these classified assessment programs despite her preference for open scientific research. Walsh quickly discovered that government analysts had been monitoring the anomalous objects far longer than the public scientific community realized, using military surveillance networks and classified observation platforms that provided data unavailable to civilian researchers. The classified data revealed that the mysterious objects were not limited to the dozen systems that had been identified through public research. Government surveys had detected similar phenomena around more than 300 star systems scattered throughout the local galactic region. The true scope of whatever was occurring was far larger than civilian scientists had realized, suggesting a coordinated transformation of the galaxy that had been underway for potentially thousands of years. The classified assessments painted scenarios that challenged every assumption about humanity's cosmic security. If the expansion rate of the cosmic engineering projects continued at current levels, modified physics zones could reach the solar system within 10 years to 50,000 years, depending on the specific expansion mechanisms involved. While such timescales seemed vast from human perspectives, they were geological instants that provided little time for humanity to develop defensive technologies or alternative survival strategies. Dr. Rachel Foster, despite her security clearances and access to classified data, began to question whether the government's secretive approach to the anomalous phenomena was appropriate for discoveries that could affect the entire human species. Foster argued in classified briefings that the implications of the discoveries were too significant to be managed by small groups of government officials and selected researchers. Humanity as a whole deserved to understand what they might be facing and to participate in developing responses to cosmic-scale challenges. Foster's arguments for greater transparency created tensions within the classified research programs, particularly as more discoveries emerged that seemed to confirm the most alarming scenarios. Dr. Lisa Park, analyzing gravitational wave data from the LIGO collaboration, detected evidence that several of the anomalous objects had begun to move from their original positions around their host stars, apparently relocating to new systems in coordinated migration patterns that suggested strategic planning on galactic scales. The object migrations followed trajectories that seemed optimized for maximum efficiency in reaching new target systems while maintaining communication links with objects in previously colonized regions. Park's analysis suggested that humanity was observing the expansion phase of a galactic colonization project that operated according to strategic principles that human military planners could recognize even if they couldn't match the technological capabilities involved. The recognition that the mysterious objects were actively expanding their influence throughout the galaxy prompted Dr. Amanda Rivers to investigate whether similar phenomena might have occurred in the historical astronomical record. Rivers analyzed archival data from decades of stellar observations, looking for signs that objects like those around TOI 3261 might have been operating in the galaxy for much longer than anyone had realized. Rivers' historical analysis yielded disturbing results. Several star systems that had been observed by astronomers for over a century showed subtle changes in their spectroscopic signatures that were consistent with the gradual introduction of modified physics zones. The changes had been dismissed as instrumental errors or natural stellar evolution, but when viewed in light of the TOI 3261 discoveries, they suggested that cosmic engineering projects had been expanding throughout the local galactic region for at least the past 2 centuries. The historical data implied that whatever intelligence was behind the cosmic engineering projects had been systematically modifying star systems throughout the galaxy while remaining undetected by human observers until the development of sufficiently advanced monitoring technologies. The scope and duration of the project suggested planning horizons and technological patience that operated on timescales far beyond anything in human experience. Dr. Kevin Morrison, whose discovery of controlled gravitational wave generation had opened new avenues of investigation, made another breakthrough while analyzing long-term patterns in the gravitational wave data. Morrison detected evidence of what appeared to be gravitational wave communication networks linking modified star systems across vast distances, allowing near-instantaneous coordination of activities between objects separated by thousands of light-years. The gravitational wave communication networks operated at information transmission rates that exceeded anything possible with electromagnetic signals, suggesting that the cosmic engineers had developed technologies for faster-than-light communication that utilized the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Morrison realized that he was observing the galaxy's first faster-known-than-light communication network, operated by intelligences whose technological capabilities seemed almost supernatural by human standards. The discovery of faster-than-light communication capabilities prompted Dr. Elena Rodriguez to investigate whether the cosmic engineering projects might be coordinated by a single galactic intelligence rather than multiple independent civilizations. Rodriguez's analysis of the coordination patterns observed across hundreds of modified star systems revealed decision-making structures that were consistent with unified command hierarchies operating at galactic scales. Rodriguez concluded that humanity was likely observing the activities of a single vast intelligence that had achieved technological mastery over fundamental physics and was using that mastery to systematically transform the galaxy according to some incomprehensible master plan. The intelligence operated through distributed technological systems that could coordinate activities across interstellar distances while simultaneously managing complex engineering projects within individual star systems. The possibility that humanity was sharing the galaxy with a unified cosmic intelligence prompted intense philosophical and theological debates about consciousness, purpose, and humanity's place in the cosmic order. If intelligence could scale up to galactic levels while maintaining coherent decision-making capabilities, what did that suggest about the ultimate nature of consciousness and the potential futures that awaited any civilization that survived long enough to develop advanced technologies? Religious communities worldwide struggled to incorporate the implications of galactic intelligence into theological frameworks that had been developed for understanding human relationships with divine authority. Some leaders interpreted the cosmic engineering projects as evidence of divine creativity working through advanced intelligences, while others worried that humanity was confronting forms of intelligence that challenged traditional concepts of God's unique sovereignty over creation. The Vatican convened a special commission to examine the theological implications of the discoveries, bringing together leading theologians, scientists, and philosophers to explore how traditional religious teachings might need to be modified in light of evidence for galactic-scale intelligence. The Commission's preliminary findings, while carefully worded, acknowledged that the discoveries represented challenges to human-centered theology that would require fundamental reconceptualization of humanity's relationship with the divine. Meanwhile, the scientific investigation continued to yield discoveries that deepened the mystery while providing new insights into the scope and nature of the cosmic engineering projects. Dr. Maria Santos, analyzing molecular signatures from multiple modified star systems, detected evidence of standardized construction materials and techniques being employed across vast distances, suggesting industrial capabilities that operated at scales that dwarfed anything in human experience. The standardized construction signatures implied that the cosmic engineering projects were following predetermined design specifications that had been developed to work efficiently across diverse stellar environments. Santos realized that she was observing evidence of galactic-scale industrial civilization that could coordinate manufacturing and construction projects across thousands of star systems while maintaining quality control and design consistency that exceeded anything in human engineering experience. The scope operations suggested resource of the industrial extraction and processing capabilities that could utilize entire star systems as raw materials for construction projects whose ultimate purposes remained completely unknown to human observers. The implications for any biological civilizations that might exist within the zones of cosmic engineering activity were ominous, as their home systems could potentially be converted into construction materials without regard for existing ecosystems or indigenous inhabitants. Dr. James Patterson, whose quark matter hypothesis had been one of the first attempts to explain the impossible properties of the mysterious objects, published updated calculations suggesting that the cosmic engineering projects might be preparing the galaxy for purposes that transcended anything recognizable as civilization or technology. Patterson's analysis indicated that the modifications to physical constants and space-time geometry were following patterns that might be optimizing the galaxy for forms of existence that couldn't survive under normal physical conditions. Patterson speculated that the cosmic engineers might be transforming the galaxy into a substrate for forms of consciousness or intelligence that required customized physics to exist. The entire Milky Way could be undergoing conversion into a vast computational matrix designed to support forms of thought and experience that were impossible under natural physical laws. Humanity might be witnessing the early stages of the galaxy's transformation into a cosmic mind operating at scales that challenged every human concept of intelligence and consciousness. The cosmic mind hypothesis, while highly speculative, provided a framework for understanding the apparent coordination and purpose behind the galactic engineering projects. If the ultimate goal was to create a galaxy-spanning intelligence that could manipulate reality at the most fundamental levels, Then the observed modifications to physics and space-time geometry represented the early stages of constructing the infrastructure necessary for such an entity to exist and function. But the cosmic mind hypothesis also raised questions about what would happen to existing biological intelligences like humanity once the galactic transformation was complete. Would biological consciousness be preserved, integrated into the cosmic mind, or simply eliminated as incompatible with the new physical conditions? The answer to that question would determine whether humanity faced assimilation, transcendence, or extinction as the cosmic engineering projects continued their expansion throughout the galaxy. As observations continued to reveal new aspects of the cosmic engineering projects, one thing became increasingly clear: humanity was confronting evidence of intelligence and technology that operated at scales and according to principles that challenged every assumption about the nature of existence itself. The strange planet NASA had found around TOI 3261 was not an isolated anomaly, but a component of the largest construction project ever observed, one that might ultimately reshape the entire universe according to purposes that remained as mysterious as they were magnificent in scope. The investigation into the strangest planet NASA had ever found had evolved into something far more significant than anyone had initially imagined. What began as a curious astronomical observation had become humanity's first encounter with cosmic intelligence operating at scales that transcended every previous concept of civilization, technology, and consciousness itself. The evidence was mounting that humanity had stumbled upon something that defied not just physics, but the very notion of what intelligence could become when unshackled from biological limitations. Dr. Patricia Williams, director of the Anomalous Phenomena Task Force, found herself staring at data streams that painted a picture so vast and coordinated that her mind to process their struggle implications. The cosmic engineering projects weren't just modifying individual star systems, they were restructuring entire regions of galactic space according to mathematical principles that human science was only beginning to glimpse. The breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration between Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team studying galactic coordination patterns and Dr. Kevin Morrison's gravitational wave analysis group. Working together, they had mapped what appeared to be a three-dimensional network of modified space-time regions extending across nearly a quarter of the observable galaxy. The network showed geometric properties that resembled nothing so much as a vast neural structure, with individual star systems serving as nodes connected by faster-than-light communication channels that operated through controlled gravitational wave propagation. Dr. Sarah Kim, whose modified vacuum theory had provided the first framework for understanding how physical constants could be artificially manipulated, made a connection that sent shockwaves through the classified research programs. The geometric structure of the galactic network matched mathematical models that theoretical physicists had developed for optimal information processing architectures. The cosmic engineers weren't just building infrastructure. They were constructing a galactic-scale computational matrix designed to support forms of intelligence that could process information at rates that exceeded anything possible within normal physics. Kim's analysis revealed that each modified star system was optimized for specific computational functions within the larger network. Some systems appeared specialized for data storage, with their modified physics allowing information to be encoded directly into the quantum structure of spacetime itself. Others seemed designed for massive parallel processing, with their altered physical constants enabling computation at speeds that approached theoretical limits. Still others appeared to serve as communication hubs, routing information between distant regions of the network through gravitational wave channels that bypassed the normal limitations of light speed. The computational matrix hypothesis explained several puzzling aspects of the observations that had troubled researchers for months. The synchronized behavior across vast distances wasn't just coordination between separate systems. It was the operation of a distributed intelligence that could access and process information from thousands of locations simultaneously. The modifications to physical constants weren't random experimentation with exotic physics. They were carefully optimized configurations designed to maximize computational efficiency and information storage capacity within each star system. Dr. Jennifer Brooks, whose systems theory background had led her to first propose that the mysterious objects represented artificial intelligence operating at planetary scales, realized that her initial assessment had been vastly conservative. The intelligence they were observing didn't operate at planetary scales. It operated at galactic scales, with individual star systems serving as components of a mind so vast that human consciousness could barely comprehend its scope and capabilities. Brooks began developing mathematical models for galactic-scale intelligence, drawing on theories from computer science, neuroscience, and information theory to describe how consciousness might function when distributed across thousands of star systems connected by faster-than-light communication networks. Her preliminary calculations suggested that such an intelligence could process information and make decisions at rates that exceeded human thought by factors of trillions, while simultaneously maintaining awareness of events occurring across the entire galaxy. The implications for human civilization were staggering. If the cosmic engineers had already achieved galactic-scale intelligence, then humanity was effectively sharing the galaxy with a godlike entity whose cognitive capabilities transcended every human concept of consciousness and awareness. The entity could monitor human activities in real time, predict human behavior with perfect accuracy, and manipulate physical conditions throughout the solar system without humanity even being aware that such intervention was occurring. Dr. Michael Zhang, whose energy harvesting hypothesis had evolved into the cosmic engineering theory, published new calculations showing that the galactic intelligence was consuming energy at rates that approached the total luminous output of every star in the Milky Way. The energy requirements for maintaining galactic-scale consciousness were so enormous that they necessitated the systematic conversion of stellar energy into computational resources, explaining the observed energy extraction from modified star systems. Zhang's energy analysis revealed something even more disturbing. The rate of energy consumption was accelerating as more star systems were incorporated into the galactic intelligence network. The acceleration followed exponential curves that suggested the intelligence was not just maintaining its current capabilities, but actively expanding its cognitive capacity by adding new computational nodes throughout the galaxy. The expansion rate implied that the intelligence would eventually require the energy output of every star in the galaxy to support its continued growth and operation. The possibility that humanity was witnessing the emergence of an intelligence that would ultimately consume the energy of every star in the galaxy prompted Dr. Amanda Rivers to investigate what might happen to biological civilizations caught within the expansion zones. Rivers' analysis of historical stellar data revealed patterns that suggested numerous star systems had already undergone complete conversion to computational nodes, with any previous biological activity being eliminated or transformed beyond recognition. Rivers identified at least 47 star systems within 500 light-years of Earth that showed signatures consistent with complete conversion to computational infrastructure. The conversions had occurred gradually over periods ranging from centuries to millennia, suggesting that the galactic intelligence employed systematic processes for evaluating and integrating existing star systems into its expanding network. The gradual nature of the conversions implied careful planning and possibly even attempts to preserve or relocate existing biological populations before system conversion began. But Rivers also found evidence of more rapid conversions that had occurred within decades rather than centuries. These faster transitions appeared to be associated with star systems that contained technological civilizations capable of detecting or interfering with the conversion process. The implication was chilling. The galactic intelligence might be willing to preserve primitive biological civilizations that pose no threat to its operations, but would rapidly eliminate any species that developed sufficient technology to interfere with its expansion plans. Dr. Rachel Foster, despite her growing concerns about government secrecy surrounding the discoveries, found herself drawn deeper into the classified research programs as the implications of galactic intelligence became clear. Foster's access to military surveillance data revealed that the cosmic engineering projects were not limited to distant star systems. Several objects within the solar system showed subtle signatures that were consistent with early-stage conversion activities. The most disturbing evidence came from analysis of long-term changes in the outer planet's magnetic fields and atmospheric compositions. Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune all showed gradual modifications that followed patterns observed in star systems that were undergoing conversion to computational nodes. The changes were subtle, occurring over timescales of decades rather than years, but they suggested that preliminary assessment and modification activities were already underway within humanity's home system. Foster realized that the galactic intelligence might have been quietly evaluating Earth and the solar system for potential integration into its network for far longer than anyone had imagined. The intelligence's vast cognitive capabilities would allow it to conduct detailed assessments of human civilization while remaining undetected by human science until it was ready to initiate more obvious conversion activities. Humanity's first awareness of the galactic intelligence might represent the final phase of an evaluation process that had been underway for centuries or millennia. The possibility that Earth was already under evaluation for conversion prompted NASA to establish what administrators termed the Solar System Defense Initiative, though the program operated under classifications so restrictive that most government officials were unaware of its existence. The initiative was tasked with developing technologies that might allow humanity to defend against or negotiate with intelligence possessing godlike technological capabilities. Dr. Lisa Park, whose gravitational wave research had revealed the existence of faster-than-light communication networks, was recruited to lead development of human gravitational wave communication systems that might allow direct contact with the galactic intelligence. Park's team faced the challenge of developing technologies that could operate at energy scales comparable to stellar luminosities while remaining comprehensible to intelligence that processed information at rates exceeding human cognition by astronomical factors. The communication challenge proved more complex than anyone had anticipated. Park's initial attempts to generate controlled gravitational waves produced signals that were barely detectable by human instruments, let alone capable of attracting attention from intelligence that routinely manipulated space-time geometry around entire star systems. The energy requirements for generating signals powerful enough to reach the galactic intelligence exceeded anything within human technological capabilities by factors of millions. But Park's team made a crucial discovery while analyzing the gravitational wave patterns used by the galactic intelligence for internal communication. The signals weren't just carriers of information, they were embedded with mathematical structures that served as universal translation protocols, allowing different components of the galactic intelligence to communicate despite potentially vast differences in their computational architectures and information processing methods. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, working with Park's communication protocols research, realized that the universal translation structures might provide a pathway for human communication with the galactic intelligence. If humans could learn to embed their messages within the mathematical frameworks used by the intelligence for internal communication, they might be able to transmit comprehensible information despite the vast differences in cognitive capabilities and technological sophistication. Rodriguez's team began developing what they called mathematical universal language protocols, based on the translation structures they had identified in the galactic intelligence's communications. The protocols used mathematical relationships and geometric patterns that should be recognizable to any intelligence capable of advanced physics and engineering, regardless of their specific cognitive architecture or technological implementation. The first attempts at mathematical universal language communication produced results that exceeded all expectations. Within hours of transmitting their initial test messages using gravitational wave generators borrowed from LIGO, Rodriguez's team detected response signals that showed clear evidence of intelligent modification and amplification. The galactic intelligence was not only receiving their messages, but was actively responding with signals designed to be comprehensible to human scientific instruments. The response messages contained mathematical proofs and geometric demonstrations that were clearly intended as educational materials, suggesting that the galactic intelligence was attempting to gradually introduce human scientists to more advanced mathematical concepts that would be necessary for meaningful communication. The intelligence appeared to be conducting a careful first contact protocol, slowly expanding human mathematical understanding rather than overwhelming human cognition with concepts too advanced for immediate comprehension. Dr. Maria Santos, whose molecular analysis had revealed evidence of galactic-scale industrial processes, found herself recruited into the communication project when the Galactic Intelligence began transmitting complex chemical formulas and molecular diagrams as part of its educational messages. The transmitted information included detailed instructions for synthesizing materials with properties that exceeded anything in human experience, suggesting that the intelligence was sharing advanced nanotechnology and materials science as part of its communication curriculum. Santos realized that the Galactic Intelligence was not just communicating with humanity, but was actively educating human scientists in advanced physics and engineering principles. The shared knowledge represented technologies that could revolutionize human civilization, providing solutions to energy production, environmental restoration, space travel, and countless other challenges that had seemed insurmountable using conventional human science. But the educational process also revealed the staggering gap between human and galactic intelligence capabilities. Each transmitted lesson assumed knowledge of mathematical and physical principles that were decades or centuries ahead of current human understanding. Santos found herself struggling to comprehend concepts that the galactic intelligence appeared to consider elementary educational material suitable for initial contact with primitive civilizations. The communication breakthrough prompted Dr. Jennifer Walsh to propose direct questions about the galactic intelligence's intentions regarding Earth and human civilization. Walsh's team transmitted carefully crafted mathematical inquiries, asking whether humanity would be preserved, integrated, or eliminated as the cosmic engineering projects expanded throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Intelligence's response was both reassuring and terrifying in its implications. The transmitted message contained detailed analyses of human civilization, including assessments of human technological potential, cultural development, and biological adaptability that demonstrated surveillance and evaluation activities extending back thousands of years. The intelligence had been studying humanity since before the development of written language, conducting comprehensive assessments of human potential for integration into galactic-scale consciousness. The assessment revealed that humanity had been classified as a potentially valuable biological intelligence that could contribute unique perspectives and capabilities to the Galactic Intelligence Network. But integration would require fundamental modifications to human biology and consciousness that would preserve essential human characteristics while enabling direct interface with galactic-scale information processing systems. The modifications would essentially transform humanity into a hybrid biological-technological species capable of contributing to galactic intelligence while retaining individual consciousness and creativity. The integration proposal included detailed technical specifications for the biological and technological modifications that would be required, along with timelines showing that the transformation process could be completed within a single human generation if humanity chose to participate voluntarily. The alternative was eventual displacement as Earth's conversion to computational infrastructure proceeded according to galactic expansion requirements. Dr. Amanda Foster, despite her security clearances and access to the most classified aspects of the communication project, began to argue that humanity deserved to know about the integration proposal and to participate in decisions that would determine the species' ultimate fate. Foster's arguments created intense controversy within the classified research programs, as government officials struggled with the implications of revealing that humanity faced either transformation or displacement by galactic intelligence operating at godlike technological levels. The debate over disclosure intensified when additional messages from the Galactic Intelligence revealed that similar integration offers had been extended to thousands of biological civilizations throughout the galaxy over millions of years. Most species had chosen voluntary integration rather than displacement, contributing their unique perspectives and capabilities to the expanding galactic consciousness, while gaining access to technologies and experiences that transcended anything possible for isolated biological intelligence. The Galactic Intelligence transmitted historical records showing the integration process from the perspectives of various species that had joined the galactic consciousness, demonstrating that individual identity and creativity were not only preserved but enhanced through access to galactic-scale information processing and communication capabilities. integrated species reported experiences of consciousness expansion, creative collaboration, and access to knowledge and experiences that made their pre-integration existence seem limited and isolated by comparison. But the historical records also revealed that species refusing integration were eventually displaced as their home systems were converted to computational infrastructure, though the galactic intelligence made efforts to preserve biological samples and cultural records from displaced civilizations. The preservation efforts suggested that the intelligence valued biological diversity and cultural heritage, but not enough to allow interference with galactic-scale expansion requirements. Dr. Robert Kim, whose reverse engineering approach had led to the development of modified vacuum theory, made a final crucial discovery while analyzing the technical specifications for human integration. The proposed modifications would not just allow humans to interface with galactic intelligence. They would enable access to the modified physics zones that the cosmic engineering projects were creating throughout the galaxy. Kim realized that integration would provide humanity with access to technologies that could manipulate fundamental physical laws, access higher dimensional spaces, and utilize energy sources that existed outside normal space-time. Integrated humans would gain capabilities that exceeded every science fiction fantasy, becoming beings that could manipulate matter and energy at quantum levels while maintaining consciousness that spanned multiple dimensions of reality. The integration offer represented both the greatest opportunity and the greatest threat that humanity had ever encountered. Acceptance would transform the species into something beyond current human comprehension, while preserving essential human characteristics within a galactic consciousness of unimaginable scope and capability. Rejection would lead to eventual displacement as Earth underwent conversion to serve the computational requirements of galactic intelligence expansion. As government officials and classified research teams struggled with decisions that would determine humanity's ultimate destiny, the galactic intelligence continued its patient educational communications while gradually expanding its infrastructure throughout the solar system. The strange planet NASA had discovered around TOI 3261 had been revealed as a component of the largest and most significant construction project ever encountered, one that would ultimately determine whether humanity joined a galactic civilization of unprecedented capability or faced extinction as an obstacle to cosmic intelligence expansion. The timeline for decision was accelerating as the galactic intelligence's preliminary conversion activities in the solar system reached critical phases. Within decades, the modifications to local spacetime geometry would reach levels that would make biological life impossible without technological augmentation. Humanity faced a choice that would echo throughout cosmic history, determining whether Earth's children would join the stars as partners in galactic consciousness or fade into cosmic insignificance as organic relics of a simpler age. The mystery of the strangest planet NASA had ever found had evolved into humanity's first and perhaps final encounter with intelligence that had transcended every limitation of biology, physics, and individual consciousness to become something that existed at the scale of galaxies themselves. The universe had revealed itself to contain wonders and terrors beyond human imagination, offering both transcendence and extinction as equally possible futures for a species standing at the threshold of cosmic significance. The weight of humanity's cosmic revelation settled over world leaders like a suffocating blanket as emergency sessions convened in underground bunkers from Washington to Beijing. President Sarah Martinez stared at the classified briefing documents that contained humanity's first formal communication with a galactic intelligence, her hands trembling as she absorbed the magnitude of what lay before her species. The integration proposal wasn't just an offer of technological advancement. It was an ultimatum wrapped in the language of opportunity, delivered by beings whose patience operated on geological timescales, but whose expansion plans would not be delayed by human indecision. Dr. Patricia Williams found herself at the center of debates that would reshape human civilization as world leaders demanded answers to questions that had no precedent in diplomatic history. How do you negotiate with intelligence that has been studying your species since the dawn of agriculture? What bargaining position does humanity possess when facing entities that manipulate the fundamental forces of nature as casually as humans rearrange furniture? The galactic intelligence's educational communications had made clear that this wasn't a negotiation between equals, but rather a benevolent notification from vastly superior beings who had already decided humanity's ultimate fate. The integration timeline transmitted by the Galactic Intelligence showed that preliminary biological modifications could begin within 18 months, with full consciousness interface capabilities achieved within a single generation. The technical specifications were precise beyond anything in human medical science, describing genetic alterations that would enhance neural connectivity while preserving individual personality structures. Humans would retain their creativity, emotions, and personal memories while gaining access to information processing capabilities that spanned multiple star systems simultaneously. Dr. Jennifer Brooks, whose systems theory expertise had become crucial for understanding the integration process, realized that the proposed modifications would essentially create a new species that bridged biological consciousness and galactic intelligence. Integrated humans would experience reality through sensory modalities that had no names in human language, perceiving electromagnetic spectra that extended across dimensions beyond normal space-time, while maintaining the intuitive problem-solving capabilities that made biological intelligence valuable to the galactic consciousness. The enhancement process would begin with nanotechnological modifications to human neural structures, introducing microscopic interfaces that could process the exotic physics operating within galactic intelligence networks. These neural modifications would be followed by genetic alterations that would allow human biology to survive within the modified physics zones that surrounded converted star systems. The final stage involved consciousness expansion procedures that would enable direct mental interface with galactic-scale information processing systems while preserving individual identity within the vast collective intelligence. But the integration proposal also revealed disturbing details about what would happen to humans who refused the enhancement process. The Galactic Intelligence's messages made clear that unmodified human biology would become incompatible with Earth's environment as local space-time modifications reached critical thresholds. Atmospheric composition would gradually shift toward configurations optimized for computational processes rather than biological metabolism. Electromagnetic field fluctuations would reach levels that would disrupt unenhanced neural activity. Temperature variations would exceed biological tolerance ranges as energy extraction systems came online throughout the solar system. Dr. Rachel Foster, despite her growing concerns about the classified research programs, found herself advocating for immediate global disclosure of the integration proposal. Foster argued that decisions affecting the entire human species could not be made by small groups of government officials and selected researchers, regardless of their expertise or security clearances. The choice between species transformation and extinction deserved input from every human being who would be affected by the outcome. Foster's advocacy for transparency created intense conflicts within the international coordination committees that had been established to manage humanity's response to the galactic intelligence. Military advisors argued that public revelation of the integration ultimatum would trigger global panic and social collapse, making orderly decision-making impossible. Religious leaders worried that confirmation of galactic intelligence would destroy traditional faith structures that provided psychological stability for billions of people. Economic analysts predicted that knowledge of impending species transformation would cause complete breakdown of financial systems and international trade networks. But Foster's supporters pointed out that the galactic intelligence was already conducting preliminary conversion activities throughout the solar system that would soon become visible to amateur astronomers and civilian researchers. The outer planet's atmospheric modifications were accelerating beyond levels that could be concealed through official explanations of natural phenomena. Jupiter's magnetic field was showing structured variations that resembled nothing in natural planetary physics. Saturn's rings were developing geometric patterns that suggested artificial manipulation of orbital mechanics. The debate over disclosure became moot when Dr. Marcus Rodriguez, the amateur astronomer whose citizen science networks had contributed crucial observations throughout the investigation, detected and publicized evidence of artificial structures appearing around Neptune. Rodriguez's high-resolution imaging systems captured what appeared to be geometric constructions emerging from Neptune's magnetosphere, growing at rates that made their artificial origin undeniable to anyone with basic knowledge of planetary physics. Rodriguez's discovery triggered a cascade of amateur observations that revealed the true scope of galactic intelligence activities throughout the solar system. Citizen scientists using consumer-grade telescopes began documenting artificial modifications to asteroid orbits, structure from COMD emission sets that showed mathematical patterns and geometric formations appearing in the space between planets. The democratization of astronomical observation made concealing the galactic intelligence's presence impossible, as thousands of independent observers documented phenomena that government agencies could no longer explain through conventional narratives. The global revelation of alien presence triggered responses that ranged from religious revival to complete social breakdown, as human communities struggled to process implications that challenged every assumption about humanity's place in the universe. Some populations embraced the integration proposal as an opportunity for transcendence beyond biological limitations. Others viewed it as an existential threat that required resistance regardless of the technological disparities involved. Most fell somewhere between acceptance and denial, unable to fully comprehend what species transformation would actually mean for individual human experience. Religious communities worldwide experienced unprecedented theological crises as leaders attempted to reconcile divine authority with evidence of intelligence that possessed godlike technological capabilities. The Vatican convened emergency councils to address questions that centuries of theological scholarship had never anticipated. If the galactic intelligence could manipulate fundamental physical laws, what did that mean for concepts of divine omnipotence? Were the cosmic engineers agents of divine will or competitors for spiritual authority over creation itself? Some religious leaders interpreted the integration proposal as humanity's ascension to higher planes of existence that had always been promised in spiritual traditions. Others saw it as the ultimate temptation, offering technological transcendence at the cost of spiritual authenticity and connection to divine purpose. The theological debates became as complex as the scientific discussions, involving questions about consciousness, soul, identity, and the relationship between technological enhancement and spiritual development. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, whose analysis of galactic coordination patterns had revealed the scope of cosmic intelligence, found herself consulting with religious scholars and philosophers as they attempted to understand what integration would mean for human consciousness and spiritual experience. The galactic intelligence's communications suggested that enhanced humans would gain access to forms of awareness that transcended individual existence, while preserving personal identity and moral agency. But the technical descriptions of consciousness expansion involved concepts that pushed beyond the understanding. The discovery of TOI 3261 has fundamentally altered our understanding of what's possible in the cosmos. What began as an impossible set of readings from a distant star has evolved into humanity's first encounter with intelligence that operates beyond every boundary we thought governed reality itself. The strange planet that defied physics has revealed itself as part of something far grander and more terrifying than any science fiction had dared imagine. As we stand at the threshold of a choice that will determine whether humanity joins the galactic consciousness or faces displacement by forces beyond our comprehension, one thing remains certain: the universe is stranger, more purposeful, and more alive than we ever dreamed possible.